Things have been off lately, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It feels like someone is watching me. When I look in the mirror, I don't even recognize myself anymore.
What's up, grinder?
I search the ancient text trying to find an answer. I feel like I hear him in the wind calling to me, and I see him in the trees.
What's up, grinder?
But the one thing I know for sure is I need to get to the bottom of this before I lose my mind.
Evil Dia, Evil Dia, Evil Dia, Evil Dia! What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Evil Dia now. Not really. Okay, so today I'm gonna go over a few things. First, we're gonna do some house cleaning. So I'm currently still working on chapter 1 of the book. I'm interested to know if anyone would be willing to serve as either an editor or as someone who gives feedback. So if you give feedback, I'm not really looking necessarily for like, if I made a grammar mistake or a spelling mistake, you can point it out, I guess, but that's not the goal. If somebody gives feedback, I want you to focus on things like, am I making sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is it confusing? You know, that kind of stuff. And then if you're an editor, obviously, you'd want to look at like, oh, I think you spelled this wrong, or, you know, you put this comma in the wrong spot. I'm really bad at commas. Just things like that, you know, like the grammatical, linguistic side of things in terms of that. And then for the feedback, I want you to give me your honest opinion, like what you think. I'm not really sure how to give access to the people that want to do that. I mean, I guess you could email me, but if everyone emails me, oh my god, my email will explode. So I guess leave a comment if you're interested and we can figure out how to do that. I don't need 1 million people, but you know, if I could get like 5 to 10 people who'd be willing to kind of take a look at it. And if you commit to reading one chapter, you don't have to read all of them. I'm sure you've seen one of Evil Dia's most recent videos about Spencer, our good friend Spencer. Evil Dia made a video the other day about the polyglot, what do you even call it, the webinar, the seminar, the forum, where they were discussing like different things and they mentioned Evil Dia and they kind of called him out and all this stuff. So I left a comment. We're gonna look at the comment. My comment was that I share the same concern with Evil Dia. Like, the money is not that, I mean, it is an issue, but it's not the main issue. What the issue I have is people who are getting like scammed by polyglots who, you know, act like I've learned 40 languages in this short amount of time, and if you use my manly man method, then you'll do it too, and you'll be also manly man. So I was referring to that, and I just said like, I'm less concerned about the money. I'm more concerned about the emotional and motivational damage that people get. And I said a lot of these scammers sell their confidence to give the illusion that they did it with their own method and they didn't have any problems doing it, and that they're just the Andrew Tates of the language learning community. Spencer's very passive-aggressive response, Andrew here, so you're Andrew Tate, never got that email you said you'd send me regarding discussing our views, and the I don't know emoji. I was telling my friend, like, it's giving that Mariah Carey, like, oh, I didn't know she sang, I thought she rapped, or, oh, I don't know her. Like, passive-aggressive is not a good color on people. And I know that if I say this, he'd say it wasn't passive-aggressive, but like, I would like to think my emotional intelligence is pretty high. I can read situations pretty well, and I study linguistics. And I specifically focus on language and power. That's my interest. Like when I talk about translanguaging, and I mentioned that like even in my other videos where I speak Chinese, I use English with it, and it's because I don't see why I need to conform to this like hierarchical structure of language use. So if I want to use a language and the other person understands it, why can't I say it? Why do I have to just stick to one or the other linguistic code? You know, so it just seems very obvious that there's a little bit of like passive aggressiveness going on there. And so then I just said, like, after our initial correspondence, I thought about it. You asked for a casual discussion, but at the time you were kind of under heat for blown up claims, which now he's under heat again, surprise, surprise. He had lack of evidence, and then he had mentioned in the video, he took it down, which I don't care that he took it down, but I just said that in the video, he mentioned that I was doing this to get clout. Yeah, I'm not gonna feed into that. Like, if that's what you think, whatever, but I'm not gonna keep going after you because you're gonna think I'm getting clout. And then, you know, whatever. So I said, like, you took personal offense, obviously, because I never mentioned him in the comment. And he's like, hey, Andrew here. Like, he's making it about himself when it's not about him. But just like, you either took offense or you assumed it was about you. And you're essentially like trying to make it all about you when it was about the polyglots who do this. And he's not a polyglot. He's never claimed to be. I'm not saying he is. I don't know why he's referring to himself here. I've thought about it too, because I've had people in comments say that they want me to do a video with Spencer and to have a discussion, but my fear is it's not going to be productive because I don't want to sound like a jerk, but like imagine, so Spencer clearly works out. If you've seen anything, he clearly works out. You can tell from just his shoulders alone, you can tell he works out. Not that I've been looking, but you can tell he works out. Imagine if someone like me, who I work out, but not often, it's definitely not a hobby. I only do it because I have a nerve issue in my shoulder. That's the only reason I do it. And I have to pay for a trainer, otherwise I do not have the motivation to go. So imagine if you had me having a discussion with him about like training, and I have very little experience and no educational background in it. And let's say, I don't know what his educational background is in this regard, like maybe he has an education and he doesn't, I don't know, but he clearly knows more than I do. If we have a discussion, he's going to bring more to the discussion about physical education than I would. How's that going to benefit him? From my perspective, it's like, I'm getting my doctorate in language education. I've been teaching English in China for 10 years. I'm currently doing research, educational research about like language learning. I just don't see how like us discussing it's like on equal ground. Like I don't want to sound, I don't even know how to explain it because I don't want to sound like I'm better than him, or like I'm just saying like from that perspective, I'm going to bring much more to the conversation, and I'm going to say things that he likely will not know. And there's a good chance if he doesn't know it, he won't understand it, or he'll just disagree with it because it doesn't make sense to him, or it doesn't make sense to how he's viewed things. You know? Even I've been thinking lately too about like comprehensible input, and in a minute I want to look at some clips from Dashu Zhongwen because he talks about that to them. He talks about comprehensible input with them. There's a lot of issues with comprehensible input that people don't really realize. Like the I+1 concept, it sounds good to be like, yeah, you just go slightly above your level. What does that mean? How slightly above is slightly above? Because if you go too far, it's not comprehensible input. And Crash even said that. Too far is not I+1. You need it to be I+1. So how do you know it's I+1? You're making the assumption that it is. And it's like, well, if you can like sort of understand it's I+1, what does that mean though? How sort of do I have to understand to count it as I+1? That's the problem in research. Like, even though we, generally speaking, I would say generally speaking, the scientific community agrees that you need to understand the input you're getting to be able to learn. That's pretty much agreed upon. There are people who might disagree slightly, but generally speaking, people agree on that. The problem is, how much do you need? How is it defined? How do you test it? It's not testable. Like, there's no way for me to, how can I gauge your level to such a specific amount that I know where you are and that I know what +1 means for your level? I can't do that. And depending on who you ask, like when Krashen originally had his hypotheses, he called it the natural approach, and his whole thing was English only. I don't know if he believes that now, because for the past like 10 or 15 years, the like trend in education for language has been shifting more toward using the mother tongue to help with education. And there are many studies that show that actually benefits more than English only. People don't know that because they're so stuck on this, like, you just need a comprehensible input and have it in the target language, and then you're going to be like a native speaker, and that's stupid. Anyway, my whole point in this is like, it's not that I'm not willing to have a discussion, it's that I don't want to have this like cheap kind of like, I don't know, argument maybe? I don't know. Like, what are you going to bring to the table? You don't have a background in this. You say things that like in the Dasha Mandarin video we're going to look at, he says, I don't know anything about like the brain. But then in your videos you talk about how we have procedural and declarative memory. You don't know anything about the brain. Why are you saying that? Exactly. That's my point exactly. You say things, you tell tall tales because you're trying to sell a point. And you might be right, but you don't know if you're right, and that's my problem. That's the problem I have, is you're talking out of your ass. You're finding information online, and then you're using that. And the information might be correct. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying the fact that you don't know, and then you have this like audacity to just be so confident in it, and when somebody challenges you, your response is usually passive-aggressive. Like, cool, thanks, bro. That's not a response. That's like kind of childish, honestly. And the thing is, I understand. I have a YouTube channel too. Like when people say mean things about, yes, it bothers me. It bothers everyone who has this. You know, I've seen people that have like millions of followers get one nasty comment and they're like, maybe I should just quit. You know, like no one likes to hear that kind of stuff. And of course you doubt yourself when you hear it. My goal is not to make you feel like shit. My goal is to make you question, are you being an ethical business person? And I don't think you are. That's your prerogative, but then it's also my prerogative to say you're scamming people. it's Evil Dia's prerogative to say you're scamming people because you don't seem to be transparent and your stories like change back and forth. And we're gonna get into that in a second. But like I should put it this way. I have a friend, she and her boyfriend just recently broke up. He is very similar to you based on the limited amount of exposure I've had to you. So through your videos or through like watching you communicate with people or comments, which is limited, I understand. It's a lot of like positive energy until somebody says something you don't like. And then it shifts immediately to passive-aggressive gaslighting. And then when you're called out on it, it shifts back to this like feigning innocence. Like, oh, I didn't mean that. And that's, you know, I would never do that. Or I wasn't attacking anyone. Why? I don't, like, I shouldn't need a roadmap to navigate your conversation. And that's what it feels like I need. I feel like when I'm trying to follow along with your logic, it's like you veer off course. And then if someone tries to get back on, you pull it the exact other direction because you don't want to go back to the problem. Evil Dia mentions this too in one of the comments. Here's the issue of fluency formula. I asked a very direct question and in response I got a long message that didn't actually address it. That's incredibly frustrating. That is the point. Just like when I called him out in my comment here. In my comment here, when I said, you had mentioned in a video that appears to have been taken down from public view that I was just making a video about you for clout. He never addresses that he said it. He did say I'm making it for clout. I mean, he didn't say me, but it was very well implied because at the time it was me and Evil Dia who had made videos. And I don't think he was mentioning Evil Dia because Evil Dia's channel was bigger and still is bigger than his. Oh my God, oof, got him. Like, yeah, this is like, what a way to respond. I mean, it's your prerogative with how you want to respond, but it's pretty passive aggressive. Like, don't say anything then. Or just say, I disagree, or, you know, or have an actual logical response instead of this nonsense. So remember, I mentioned the thing about the clout. All I try to do is respond to the claims that are made about me. I assure you that I have no interest in hurting anyone's feelings or personally attacking anyone. No one said that. You see how, like, I didn't say he's attacking anyone. I said he's taking something personal. I'm not saying this about him, and he's turning it back on other people like, well, I'm not attacking anyone, as if somebody's claiming he's attacking people. This is what my friend's ex did. It's called deflecting, right? Like he's deflecting all of this possible blame on him and putting it on other people. My goal with you would be to genuinely discuss our positions. For what? Like why? Why can't you do it in video format? What, like on your channel and have a discussion back and forth like that? Why do you need to call me? Do you think that you're gonna convince me in the call? I'm gonna be 100% honest, okay? Spencer, you seem like a fun guy. Again, I don't know you personally, but you also seem like somebody who spins tales. Whether or not you do, I don't know. I can only take what you put online as evidence. And if you're leaving information out and then saying, let me explain myself, why can't you just put it all there to begin with? Why do you need to explain yourself? Like, and you're willing to make it public, why can't you just make it public to begin with? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like I feel like there's something you want from me or something. And so that's like you're dangling a carrot in front of my face and saying like, if you do this, then I'll give you what you want, the answer. Like, why can't you just give the answer to begin with? I don't get it. I think you as a researcher, that's sweet. I do research, but I'm technically like up and coming. Like, I don't want to toot my own horn, you know, so I'm technically up and coming researcher. Might benefit, and I'd certainly do my best to ensure you did. We have a few mutual friends. I have no idea who you're talking about. I have no idea at all. I don't know anyone that lives in Canada. I know one guy, and he's Chinese, and I met him once. I wouldn't call him a friend. And tell me the kind of person you are. Again, I don't know who you're talking about, and I can only imagine you and I would get along if we got the chance. Listen to me, we probably would get along because you seem like the kind of person who is like very cordial, polite in person, but it feels like if things go south, you get passive aggressive very quickly, and I don't deal with that. Like, I'm the kind of person who walks away from that. I'm not saying I'm not passive aggressive ever. I am. I'm human. But I just mean like it seems more of like a trend of yours or a habit of yours, like to the point where I would say, if we were friends, I'd say like either I can't talk to you that much or I would literally say to you, I need you to stop being passive aggressive. Furthermore, I think if you're in my position and felt misunderstood, yeah, I agree with that. That I feel like I have to prove myself, absolutely. I think you and I are probably similar in that way. Even like if people make a comment about me, even though it doesn't matter, I still feel like I have to prove them wrong. I know that. Actually, the very reason I'm getting my doctorate is because somebody suggested that I wasn't able to do it or like I wasn't good enough. That was literally the driving force behind my decision, and still is. I still think about that person and think about like, in your face, bitch, because I'm getting my doctorate. I get that. You're a go-getter. I mentioned it before in other videos. Like, you're the kind of person who wants to prove people wrong about yourself, right? Like, you want to go beyond the limits that people set before you. I get it. The problem is you're doing it in a way that's not transparent, and it seems a little like, I guess you could say obscured. It's like behind a smoke screen, you know? It's just like we can't see everything that's going on there, and the bits and pieces we're getting aren't adding up, and you're just like, well, if you talk to me privately, you would know. Like, this sounds like a self-made problem, honestly. I'm interested in discussing language learning with you and exploring the views we share in common and also the ones we don't. P.S. The reason I took the video down was because I was seeing comments speaking about you and Evil Day that I felt were personal attacks on you guys. Here's the thing. Here's my issue with this. Is it possible that some of those personal attacks were because you implied I was trying to get clout? I'm sure some of them were not, but is it possible you had a hand in that? And here you are not taking responsibility. You're putting it off on other people. That's what I don't like. That's what gaslighters do. That's what I'm saying. I don't know you well enough to say you're a gaslighter, but I can say you are gaslighting. You're deflecting all of this stuff and playing the innocent guy. Like, you start off sarcastic. You could say you're trying to be funny, but a lot of gaslighters do that. They say offensive things and people get mad. They're like, oh, I was just joking. I don't know. I'm just saying it appears like you're being manipulative, and then we get here and yeah, you're deflecting. You're not actually taking responsibility for the thing that you did. That's annoying. I don't want to deal with that. I have said repeatedly that I don't endorse that. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Even passively, but you do it passively. Like, you do it, you know? Maybe not in videos. Well, you kind of do, but I wouldn't say you do it in videos as much as you do in comments. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of this. I've definitely had passive-aggressive comments before where I've given to other people. But now, because one, a lot of times if we're commenting we're passive-aggressive, we're upset. So I usually try to wait to respond. Like the comment I gave Spencer here, it took me an hour to write because I wrote it and yeah, I was passive-aggressive. So I was like, no, I need to change that. That's not saying what I want to say. It's getting off of the topic. When you're passive-aggressive, the thing I think is, how are you adding to the conversation in a positive way? Like, how are we moving the conversation forward? And when you're passive aggressive, you're not moving it forward, you're halting it or you're pushing it backwards. Anyway, man, I do hope you consider sending me an email where we can talk about a discussion, either public or private. And again, no hate at all, and I do appreciate your voice in the community. Talk to you soon. Edit, I meant to say views we share. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, I get that. I go for my phone too, and yes, the typos are awful. And whenever you try to like click in the text to edit it, it like scrolls all the way back to the top, and it's just the YouTube like UI for the phone is not good. That's part of my problem though. It's like, it's not that I want to think you're a bad person, and it's not that I like don't want to like you. Again, you seem like you'd be a really fun guy to hang out with. I don't have a lot of guy friends, so the guy friends I do have, I cherish. One of my closest friends is a Chinese guy, and he's totally like Chinese straight, like men don't hug, men don't cry, men don't do this, men don't do that, you know? He'll give me hugs, but only when we say goodbye. And only it's because I require it, because we don't see each other very often. We see each other like once a year for like 2 days. What I'm saying though is that like, if I had you as a friend, I would feel protected by you, you know? Like, that's obviously a good feeling. Like, people like to feel that way. We feel safe, we feel like, you know, but the problem is I sense that it would not be a deep friendship. And then if it's not a deep friendship, it feels like not a friendship worth having to me. And maybe I don't know, different, maybe I'm like crazy or something, but like, I don't really want to have numerous amounts of friends. Like even my friends in China, like close friends that I hang out with on a like regular basis are almost non-existent. Most of my friends are online because they're in the States or in China, but they live like my one friend lives in the South and other friend lives in the North and that kind of stuff. But I don't know where to go from here with that, because like, I just don't know how the conversation would be productive. I don't. And you're gonna know things that I don't know because you're looking at it from your perspective and you're gonna, you know, you're probably thinking it in some way, but I just don't understand why you want to like talk. My first thought is, what are you getting from this? Like, what do you personally want from this? How's that gonna benefit you? Because like, for me, I could say it's benefiting me because I'm getting answers that I want. And I don't like not having answers. But I don't want to deal with like passive aggressive. My guess is too, in person, especially like online, even in person, we don't know each other, you'll probably not be passive aggressive. Like my friend's ex was like that. And again, I don't know you. This is all like conjecture here, but just like when he met new people, even if he didn't like them, he was so nice to them. So I'm not afraid of that. But my issue is that I don't want to get into any type of friendship relationship with someone if it's going to be superficial or if it's going to just be like for a quick second and then bye. I don't even know if I should say this, but like after Will Hart and I did that video, we talk a lot. Sometimes we'll call each other and we'll talk for like an hour and a half, you know? Like this could probably be because Will is the sweetest human being on earth. And I am very talkative and I'm domineering. I know I am. So sometimes when we're talking, I cut him off because I get excited. And then I have to stop myself and say, okay, Will, keep going. I'm like, oh, no. Like, Will, it's like, I cut you off, you know? But like that to me is a deep friendship because even though we don't talk all the time, every time we do talk, it's always for a long time. And it's always about like personal issues, you know, or personal things that we're doing, like how life is and that kind of stuff. And like, are you going to be that kind of friend? I don't know, you know, like these are the questions that I ask myself when I consider having somebody as a friend. We don't necessarily have to be friends either, but I don't want to have a discussion if it's going to be like this weird debate where I'm coming at it from a scientific perspective and you're coming at it from somebody who knows nothing about it or very little about it. What's the value in that? It's like when people say like, well, that's your opinion. That doesn't mean it's equal to your opinion. Like, if we have two different opinions, it does not mean our opinions are equal. If somebody comes with an argument and they have actual evidence, like, here, like 4,000 people did this and they all found these results, and you're like, well, I did it this way and it worked this way for me. Maybe it did. Maybe it did work that way for you, but that doesn't mean it's going to work that way for everyone else, because the majority, it doesn't work for. That's another issue with comprehensive input. It's the same thing with ALG. Like, it's so effective, but here's the thing. When children get it, because children do get CI, how do they get CI? They have a language partner with them all the time. Their parents, their siblings, their friends. When an adult learns a second language, especially with self-study, they don't get that. And they can go online and look at videos and stuff, sure, but they're missing out on a huge part of comprehensible input, which is the interaction. If a baby doesn't understand you and you say something and they're still crying, you're like, maybe they don't know what I'm saying, or maybe I don't know what they're trying to say, and I'm going to adjust what I'm doing. You can't do that with a video. Videos don't do that, unless it's like a class with a teacher. I've kind of diverged a little bit. I digress. Okay, so there are a few parts in this video that I want to look at. So here's one of them.
而已，我到了这个程度。
我想问一下你大楼，就是一开始其实你没有用课本学过任何一点点中文的东西，直接就开始用大书中文来学习中文。
对啊，差不多。可是
Here's the thing too, if you're starting with Dashu Mandarin, which is aimed for like intermediate, and they have these like podcasts, you're gonna not understand a lot of stuff. There's no visual cues on screen, so unless you have translation, which I assume he did not have, how are you gonna understand it? You're not just gonna sit there and like absorb the language. And you could argue like, well, he picked up the sounds, he picked up this. Sure, that's possible, but the vocabulary, no, which means you must have used something else to study.
可是这中间会有一段很痛苦的过程，是不可理解的阶段，
对，完全不可理解，
听不懂。
对，没错。
那你要怎么去克服或通过，或你觉得无所谓，还是觉得学习者是不需要太在意这段时间的？你的理论是什么啊？
很好的问题。首先，当然不是专业，所以我不知道。我不是一个怎么说呢？不是一个科学家，所以
Okay, here's the thing that bothers me with this too. You are literally admitting that you are not well learned in the subject or the topic of learning the language this way. You're not a scientist. In a second, you say like you don't understand how the brain learns, but then you sell a course where you act or say that you know these things. You're lying to someone, and you can say like I was nervous. Does being nervous make you tell lies? Like to the point where you've been talking for like 5 to 10 seconds about it, and you can't catch yourself and say, I'm sorry, I misspoke. You can't say that. Like, that's the problem we're having in the community.
我不知道我们的脑子怎么回事，但是
You see, 我不知道我们脑子怎么回事. Like, I don't know what our brains are doing. But then here you have a school account where you tell people that the brain does this and it does that. Like, you're doing the bare minimum basics of like Google. Like if you just look up on Google, it'll tell you in the AI answer, and that's probably similar to the answer you're giving because you are not reading like actual scientific studies where people are breaking these things down and they're using their findings to kind of compare against other findings, and that's why science is kind of slow. It's also slow because the journals, when they publish, they withhold information, which actually they're getting sued. There's a really big lawsuit. I hope they go down because they're very corrupt. Like they make, I think last year alone they made like $10 billion. But that's my point. So like you have this limited amount of knowledge on the subject, and that's okay. Like you can still sell a course that way, but you can't sell a course pretending or acting or making the illusion that you do have that sort of knowledge. That's the problem we're having.
真的，我可以这么告诉你，就是，我开始学习的时候，我没有太注意这个可理解的一部分。但是呢，我需要给苏青老师，我需要给他面子，因为我也看到他的。现在
你要给很多老师面子了，可人
老师在教可理解书啊，
苏静老师啦，
可人老师啊，
他们都帮助我的很多。
I'm a little confused too because he said like you want to give a lot of teachers mianzi, but like who are these other teachers? Are they all people on YouTube? And how do they know that information? Because he might have mentioned it earlier, I don't remember, but I don't think he did. I think the Su Qing Lao he's talking about they mentioned before. But then it's like, did you have classes? Did you watch other videos? Because when they asked at the beginning, they said, did you just use Dashu Mandarin to learn Chinese? And he said, 差不多。
为了回答灿叔的问题，就是说，说实话，为了提高我的口语，我完全牺牲了我的阅读能力。所以，那我并不在跟你们说，哎，观众朋友们，你们也应该牺牲你的阅读能力，不是这样子。但是对我来讲，最重要的一部分是跟别人沟通，交流聊天。所以现在这是我的目标，所以是按照这个目标，我就开始学习，是这样子。所以 我现在我的阅读能力是不怎么样，说实话是不怎么样。但是我的口语是可以跟母语者聊天的，
对
差不多的。
I will say too, the muyuzhe kind of thing, I've never ever heard a Chinese native speaker use that word in my industry. Maybe other speakers will do this, but in my industry we teach English. In my school alone, like my department, we have 109 teachers. We all say native. Like we just say like Tasha native, or Tasha native speaker. We don't ever say Tasha muyuzhe or Tasha. You could say like Tasha 美国本地人, but that doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily imply language. But like, I feel like sometimes, I was talking to people last night actually, like about Chinese, and I feel like sometimes foreigners, they have this like strong sense of separating languages, which goes back to like colonization and imperialism. But it's the idea of like the languages together make them impure. Or they're not, it's not good to mix languages. And so then they think like you can't say an English word in Chinese, but Chinese people do it all the time. Like yesterday I was telling the people in the group, they'll say like, 我 get 得到, which means I understand, or like 我 get 不到, like I don't understand it. Or like 我给你打 call, like they have these where they use English words to say things, you know, like that's normal. But when you, sometimes if you use the Chinese word, like it's not wrong, it's just, to me, and I'm not a native speaker, but I'm just saying to me it sounds weird because like everyone in my industry does not use the word 母语者。
差不多。
大龙，我很好奇，就是你一定会有一个阶段是非常不能理解或完全听不懂中文的这个过程。
This is the second time now he's asking to explain how did you get past this beginning part in the process, because if like you're doing this like study by just watching videos and getting input, how did you pass that? And so Spencer didn't answer, so now he's asking again. I think he asks this question 3 or 4 times.
你可不可以建议你可不可以建议学生或你自己是怎么样通过这个过程，度过这段时期，或者你觉得这段时期是很自然的就会度过了？你是怎么样？那段事情是怎么？
我还要补充一点，就是你在看，比如说
Okay, in Spencer's defense, this will get confusing because now he has 2 people asking questions, you know, so I would also be like, wait, I don't remember what you said.
说我们的视频或一些中文老师的视频的时候，一开始你听不懂，你有没有用英文字幕来辅助你？
没有，
都没有，就纯听。
纯听
就是
也不看中文字幕，对不对？
对啊，就是
看不懂。
因为当然我刚开始的时候，我也在用比较简单不是博客，但是呢简单的视频吧。比如说苏青老师，我不知道。
苏青老师，
对，
苏青，所以对，就是他有一个比较简单的博客，或者是他录一些比较简单的视频，所以你可以通过他的视频开始学习。我刚开始听到你们的博客的时候，我没有用什么字幕，就是我就说实话，我是一个比较有自律的一个人，所以我就可能
重复。
我花了3个小时，对，我花了3个小时来看你们的博客，然后我突然发现，哎，我一来而去，我可以理解你们在说什么。所以
听着就能听懂一些东西。
There's no way that you just went from 0 to like, I'm going to watch this Chinese intermediate podcast and just slowly understand it with no visual cues. I mean, he did mention that he like looked at other things, but here's the thing too, like when he talks, and I know in this video I'm not necessarily critiquing his Chinese, but like I get that he might be nervous. And I'm not even looking at the way he pauses because everyone pauses when they speak. I even pause when I speak English. The things I'm looking at is like he repeats himself often. When he says a word, like he mentions Anki in the video, he's like, instead of saying like Anki 你们知道吗？它就是一个 like 学习单词的软件 or something like that. He doesn't say that. It's like Anki 你知道吗? Oh yeah, 你们知道. Like you're not giving any new information. Why you keep saying that kind of thing? And it feels like it could be a little mixture of nerves, but like also your level is definitely lower than you think it is. It's not C1, and we're going to get to that in a second because he says he didn't claim to have C1.
对。
但是大龙，因为我们是没有很多这个辅助的道具啊，没有画面啊，没有图片，就是我们3个人在聊天。
苏青老师聊到什么，那个旁边就会出现那个图案出来。
对，所以我想问一下大龙，就是你只是看视频，还是说你也同时有一些其他配合视频的学习方法？比如说你用一些工具啊，或者是你会把我们的这个文字档调出来，然后看这个翻译，就是在你看完整个视频之后，你会再去看一下到底我们聊了什么，然后再回来看一遍。就是你到底是怎么用大叔中文的视频的？
其实大龙就是说你那个时期是这样。
Yeah, see, he's asking it again. Like, Spencer's not explaining the process, and they keep asking him to explain the process, but he's not actually breaking it down how he went from 0 to, like, intermediate understanding with just these videos. Like, he's not telling them. That's why they keep asking, like, did you use textbooks? Did you use subtitles? Did you use translation? Which he already answered that, but I think they're confused because he's not actually telling them the process.
那你那个过程是怎么样？
Yeah, 你那个过程是怎么样? Like, they're still asking, like, what did you do?
我是蛮好奇的，你自己那个过程是怎么样？
Of course, 你蛮好奇 because 他没有回答。
首先你们要知道，我也用了一个非常非常著名的工具 Anki， 很多人知道 Anki， 对，所以这是非常重要的。
Yeah, and like, you could say, sure, he doesn't need to explain what Anki is. Like, 很多人知道, yes, okay. But it just, like, 你们知道吗？很多人知道. How are you adding to the conversation? If they said 不知道, like, 你不知道吗？很多人知道，你怎么不知道? Like, that's when I would say, you know, 很多人知道. Otherwise, if you say 你们知道吗？很多人知道, it just seems like a weird, like, why did you add that?
当时呢，说实话，我可以这么说吗？我模仿贺威同学的方法来用这个 Anki 的小软件。但是呢，我们的方法现在不是一模一样，所以但是呢 ，Anki 为什么这个东西是非常非常关键的一个工具吗？
工具
就是因为你可以故意的选择做。
I will say gooey is not the word he wants. And again, you could say he's nervous. I make mistakes too. But gooey sounds like you did something on purpose. Like for example, if I push you and I say it's an accident, like 你故意的, like you did that to hurt me kind of thing. Whereas here, and I asked the native speaker this too, because again, I am not native. So like some of even my thoughts, like I think in Chinese, but they still will follow certain English rules, right? Just like sometimes in English, my English follows Chinese rules because I have both in my brain. But you would say like 特意, you know, like you specifically did this thing deliberately. Whereas like 故意的, I think is different. At least per my understanding, and then I asked a few friends because I wanted to make sure. Because again, I'm not a native speaker.
比如说1000个怎么说呢？1000个最
常用的，对，
Those are called 高频词, which is like sight words, or you know, but they're the most common words. 高频is the like 频率, so like 高 is high, and then 频率 is frequency.
常用的词儿，然后放在你的 Anki 里边。所以通过这个方法，你可以遇到你。
How did he? Here's the thing, though. He said he didn't look at characters. So if you're not looking at characters, did you learn Pinyin then? How did you learn Pinyin? How did you put them into Anki? You could do a sound, I guess, with an image, I suppose. I don't know how I did it.
你平常会遇到的词儿，当时你可以故意的开始学习这个词汇，所以有可能是通过这个方法，我开始理解，有可能是通过这个方法，我开始理解你们和比如说盛兰老师和安妮老师等等，他们说的一句话，对，所以这是第一，对于我来讲这是第一，因为有很多人。他们也觉得，如果你用这个方法的话，这是浪费的时间。为什么呢？就是因为，比如说 Stephen Krashen， 我不知道你们有没有听说过他的名字？对，Stephen Krashen， 他的角度就是说，因为你会自然而然遇到这个最常用的词儿，你并不需要故意的把这个词汇放在你的 APP 里边。这是他的角度。但是呢，我的角度就是说，这是不一样。我觉得你应该故意的学习这个以前或者你起码怎么说呢？那个最常用的100的词儿什么的，你可以然后因为通过这个方法，你把
Here's the thing too, like 你可以然后 like I know you said you're nervous, but like you do this often through this like interview podcast. So if your level is high, you're not going to be doing that all the time. And sometimes like, because even on my Dashu Mandarin, like there are times where like, oh, I said that wrong. I could have said it this way, or you know, like I get it, but it just seems weird that somebody who's like as extrovert as you, who is a CFO of a company and like works with students who are learning languages, that you get this like stage fright. Especially because like I know that in your videos you can edit, but like you don't give that. Like, even here, you don't seem to be that nervous. And you're 17 minutes into the interview. And, like, when I did Dasha Mandarin, before the interview, we talked for, like, 5 or 10 minutes before we started. Like, they did, like, a warm-up. Not, like, it wasn't, like, to practice. It was just to kind of get to know each other first before you just got into things. So I can't imagine at this point in time you're as nervous as you were when you first started. And so I would say it's, like, your level is likely lower than you think it is. I do not think it is C1. I don't even think it's B2. I would say you're more like B1. And maybe in some topics you're closer to B2, but I don't know. I don't think I would say B2.
一个母语者的中文编成更可以理解的。
对对，你有一些词汇的积累了，对，是吧？
对对对，就是这样，就是这样。
所以
Okay, I just want you to take a look at Richard's face because I feel like he's still not quite getting the answer he wants. Okay, so he asks this again at 22 minutes.
的这个，我想再把主题拉回一些你比较学习中文的过程啊。
Yeah, see, he's still curious about the 过程 because he's not getting the answer he wants. And that's what it feels like. And Ivaldia has mentioned it too, like you don't seem to answer questions directly. I mean, you don't because even when I say things, you just skirt around the problem.
因为我个人是蛮好奇的。就是你刚刚说的，就是你一开始可能会除了大叔中文之外，听素清老师的啦、盛兰老师的啦、Annie 老师的油管，对不对？然后听大叔中文听一段时间，你会发现自然而然的，你可以理解大叔说话的内容，对不对？那我觉得，所以你现在的学习法还是通过大量的去听大叔中文的播客吗？还是你有什么不同的改变，有一些新的学习方法了？
目前的状态是这样子，就是我还在听很多的大叔中文，但是呢，我非常喜欢，因为我相信你们已经知道，但是呢，我非常喜欢听窦文涛，因为你知道圆桌派吗？
对对对
对，就是因为我上大学的时候，我是一个哲学的专业，就是我的本科，所以现在因为就是我偏向于学习比较抽象的事情，我发现就是这个窦文涛这个人，他也非常喜欢讨论的比较抽象和我不知道非常复杂的话题，
对，
所以现在基本上我的学习方法还是
Yeah, like why do you this kind of stuff sounds like 我现在基本上 like why do you need to keep repeating it? That's what I don't get. Like sometimes repetition makes sense, right? Like when you're trying to get a thought up, but you do it all the time. And you don't really do it in English. Like when you do those videos, those impromptu videos where you don't edit, you don't really repeat yourself like that, but you do it in Chinese, which would suggest your level is lower than you think it is.
是大量的输入，对，
对，
就是已经开始看母语者语速的视频，
对对，就是这样。那我也发现通过这个方法，我发现一个比较有意思的现象，就是说，那学习者的脑子里有叫什么被动的知识和可以这么说主动的知识吧。那我发现你越来越多的听内容的话，你发现你的被动的知识变成主动的知识。所以现在你会觉得你会以为你在这个程度上，但是呢，其实如果你听下一个视频，有可能你会发现你其实在另一个程度更高级的程度，所以这个
I'm confused. Passive like skills are not, they're receptive, so like if you understand something that's not active, but he's talking about listening to stuff, so that doesn't make sense to me. I might have misunderstood him, but if you have passive vocabulary, what that means is you understand it when you see it or hear it. That's it. Active means you can use it. You can use it in writing, you can use it in speech. So I don't know what he's talking about.
会对你的自信的非常好。但是呢，我发现最大的问题，作为一个学习者来说，很多人他们太早的放弃，因为他们不知道他们已经有很多的知识他们的脑子里，但是呢，这个知识都是 都是被动的，所以你需要按照更多的输入，提高你的水平。
Yeah, I guess, but like the thing is if you have enough 被动 or enough like passive knowledge, it will become active. Generally speaking, not always. I mean, you have the case of like heritage learners, but what I mean is like if you're involved in like being around it enough and you're actually making attempts to like make it active, like using it, of course it'll become more active.
因为现在另一个因素就是说。
Yin Su doesn't sound right to me either. And actually, this is not the first time I've seen this video. I watched it when it first came out. I watched it with my partner, and we like struggled with watching it because there's a lot of this going on, and there's a lot of like not really like you're not answering the question, or you're stopping and pausing a lot, or you're like like I don't know. Like when I did Dashi Mandarin, they didn't tell me the questions ahead of time, so that can be part of the pressure, right? Like you kind of on the spot. But usually they're helpful. Like there are a few times where they tried to help me, but I didn't really need it, and I kind of wonder if some of the words I said. Maybe it's like more advanced than intermediate, and so they like said it in the like easier word kind of thing, which when I'm talking to them feels like they're trying to correct me, but I think what they were, because I wasn't wrong, I think what they were doing was they were trying to tell their viewers what I was saying. I wouldn't say like 领域外的因素, I would say like 原因.
我不太喜欢这个你知道这个 A1, A2, B1, B2
Yeah, so this would be a 原因, like a reason, not an 因素. It's a reason for why you're doing something or don't like something or whatever.
的
就分级
系统，
对不对？
对呀，为什么呢？就是因为你的流利度要看各种各样的因素。第一是现在，比如说你水的好不好？如果你水的不好，有可能你的包括我的口语的水平会非常低。
You can probably tell this by now. There's a lot of repetition. 我的你的 tones. Okay, I mess up on tones. Tones, everyone knows. Even native speakers mess up on tones. But he messes up a lot. Like 你睡 like 睡得好. You mean 睡 你睡得好. I get it, nerves, but we're 25 minutes in, and I'm not saying I didn't make mistakes. It's just that it's more common than he likes to think it is. I wanted to look at this too. So he said, just to make sure everyone is clear, I have invited Evil Dia to cross-examine me, question me, and quiz me live. Also, he's not a lawyer, like cross-examine. I'm happy to do a call anytime and answer any question. That's nice. But then skeptics like me and Evil Dia think like, what's in it for you? In this interview with Dashu, I definitely made more mistakes than I would have liked, but such is the case when you know thousands of people are waiting to watch and tell you what level you are. Okay. That's kind of irritating. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, but also, Spencer, before Dashi Mandarin came out, you were blowing it up on your own channel, trying to make it look like your Chinese is really good. You have videos with that. There's a clip in one of your videos where you're talking to your friend and you're trying to like hype it up that your Chinese is better than it is. And then you're like, well, I didn't do as good as I could have because I was nervous. Then don't hype it up. The thing is like your Chinese isn't bad. It's not what you think it is. That's the problem. You're saying it's super high in a year time, and then you're like, well, I just wish people wouldn't judge me. We're not judging you for not being C1. We're judging you for saying you're C1 when you're not. Your Chinese isn't bad. Like, sure, you have tone problems. Everyone has tone problems. Native speakers have tone problems, so that's not my concern, but it's just annoying. That's the thing. People get annoyed with this because it's like you're not being genuine at all. And then you play this like, well, here's all the reasons why. No, I'm not buying it. If I was asked to speak English for the sake of showing people my proficiency in English, I'd probably sound around A2. Okay, get it, but no, you wouldn't. Nerves caught up with me, but also I'm still a student myself, mistakes happen. There's a difference between mistakes and errors. Mistakes are things you do and you know they're wrong. And that probably did happen in your interview. It happened in mine. There were things that like I said, I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have said it that way. But you also had things that you do like over and over again. That would suggest to me it's an error because you're not aware of it. So you're making this like wrong thing and you think that it's like a mistake. It's not the same thing. And your level is lower than you think it is. Anyway, nowadays I'm very happy to be interviewed, etc., especially by you, Evil Dia. I prefer that it's in video format so that I can articulate my position with the nuances that naturally shape conversation. I do this in either Chinese or English. I think written does a poor job, at least for me. That's fair. I get it. Like, not everyone's a writer. I mean, some people are better at speaking than writing. I get that. P.S. I never came out on my own saying C1. You did. You did, though.
Now, I would say I'm at a C1 level personally. Now, look, you might disagree with me and say that I'm at a B2 level.
You said you're at a C1.
High B2, I'm not sure. The reason why I said C1 is because according to my understanding...
There's the problem. That's been the problem all along, according to your understanding, which is limited. It's limited because you don't have a background in it. You came on the scene after you kind of did have a whole Andrew Tate period of time, especially on your Twitter. I mean, I looked at your Twitter. Before I did a video on you, I tried to go as deep as I could. I don't want to dox you, but I wanted to make sure I had everything straight. You have so many things from your past on Twitter where you're talking about like, I learned Japanese to conversational fluency. And did you? Because in your videos about this, you said that you never learned Japanese well because you did it the traditional way, but Chinese was not traditional. You learned that to fluency. That's the problem. You tell inconsistent stories, and then when people call you on your bullshit, you get upset that people don't like you, or you get upset that people are coming after you, or you get upset that whatever. But like, you brought it on yourself. I'm not saying people should treat you poorly, but people are allowed to question your motives, and they're allowed to say they don't think you're being honest. I don't think you're being honest. It's like my friend's ex did this. He spins so many tales that when he gets caught, he doesn't know which one is the truth. Like you said, you never claimed it. You did claim it. Somebody asked you, and then you said, I think I'm C1. You claimed it.
Have the ability to, I guess, argue and dispute claims and talk about a wide variety of subjects, and not just for like 2 minutes. Like they're able to have fully like hour-long conversations, let's say, which is something that you're good.
The thing is like, you can also do that in A2 and B1, depending on what you're talking about. You can easily, I have a friend, her level is probably like high A1, maybe A2. She, at a party, was talking to another Chinese guy for like 2 hours. Basic conversation, but they were talking for a long time. The length of time does not determine how good your Chinese is. And even if you say, like, well, you can like refute claims, yeah, really easy to do. If I say like, 我听说过你喜欢男生，我不喜欢呀. There's a refute claim. You refuted my claim. I think that you're reading something that's outside of your like field of expertise, and you understand it to a certain degree, and you think that means you understand it completely when you don't. That's what it looks like.
What if everything you've been taught about learning a language is completely backwards? Today, I can use Chinese to navigate complex business discussions.
What complex business discussions are you navigating in Chinese? You work for a sock company, as far as I know. Are you like talking about like, 你要买袜子, like what? Oh, 这是给有糖尿病的人的袜子穿的. Like what? Is that a complicated conversation? Like, that's the problem with this. It's like, I don't want to be rude to you. I don't want to make you feel bad, but it does not seem like you're being honest, and you just constantly, like, you're giving out these like passive aggressive comments, and then when people have a negative reaction to it, you turn it on its head and be like, well, I'm not attacking anyone, and I'm not doing anything, and like, you don't look innocent. And even like, Evil Dia mentioned before about the email. Like, I have the emails from your school. It says things that don't add up. And when people ask, you get offended. Then make it make sense. Get your receipts in order and then tell people. And if you feel like people don't have a right to know, then stop bothering with it. Let it go. Let people do what they're going to do. Because eventually it'll die down. Like, even if people bring it up, like, Evil Dia mentioned it simply because Luca had mentioned it in his video. Like, he mentioned Luca watching your video and commented on it because Luca mentioned about him, right? He was saying that Luca got scammed, or he kind of believed your lies or whatever. Let it go. Like, if it's not true and you really, like, let it go. This is a long video. I'm actually kind of tired. Hit me up in the comments if you're interested in doing editing or feedback. And again, you don't have to read the whole book to do that. You're going to get access to the book anyway. Oh, I was thinking too, like, if you did feedback or edited, I don't know how you want to do this, but I thought that I could put your names in the, like, front cover, you know, kind of like a thank you too, like, you know, I don't know. But I don't know. I guess give me your ideas in the comments what you guys think. I'm working on it. It's very slow. I'm hoping September, middle of September, but it's probably going to be more like October, middle of October, but I'm trying. I just had my boss call me today, and she asked me if I'd be willing to help write a curriculum for university. It's like a team of 6 teachers, so like that's going to make me a little busy, but I'm still trying to do this. I want to be able to give you guys good content, you know. My video on fossilization will probably come out next week. I want to make sure, so actually these videos are kind of like brief overviews of the chapters I'm doing, and so like the research I do for these videos, I'm mainly putting most of that into the writing. I want to make sure I finish chapter 1 before I move on to fossilization, because I don't want to like get my research mixed up, because this is a lot of research. I'm gonna sign off. It's been an hour. Thanks for watching the video, and I'm gonna, like I said, gonna try to put up the fossilization video, and hopefully next week. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye.